What's up, guys? This is Brave, and I'm actually here to review The Real Housewives of Atlanta. Yes, we are in Season 15. That is such a high number. But Season 15, Episode 1, let's get right into the episode. First things first, we see a flash forward where we already know that we're going to be celebrating Sonya's husband Ross, his birthday. Cool. But let's get into this foolishness that is Sheree and Martell first. Not only is it crazy that Sheree is going to be dating Martell this season, but what's worse about it is the fact that on his show, Love and Marriage Huntsville, he's like, oh, we just friends. Me and Sheree, we cool. He go ahead and sit on the voicemail, all this foolishness. However, on this show, he really out here acting like they are dating. They are a couple. They are boyfriend and girlfriend. What are we watching? Like, literally on two different networks, two different shows, we're watching the same relationship be played out two different ways. It is the weirdest thing ever. But let's jump into what's happening on this episode. Martell ends up coming over to Sheree's house. They start talking about how she needs to work out and all this stuff. Who cares? It's all about what she's saying in her confessional, because according to her, he has never shown her any type of disrespect, and she wished that he lived in Atlanta because he lives all the way in Huntsville. And it is clear that Sheree is really interested in this man. And I'm just like, girl, please find somebody else. So Sheree, she actually ends up setting up a little, at-home date night because she brought in a chef and they were going to cook together. All right, cute. Here's the thing that stood out to me. She sat up there talking about she actually considered having a threesome with her ex-husband. I said, not big ugly. Really, girl? But according to her, this threesome never happened, or at least it didn't happen with her, because he had a threesome with somebody else. I'm like, I don't want to hear no more mention of Bob, because I don't want to picture it. So Sheree ends up telling Martell about how, Sonya is having a big party for her husband. He's like, oh, who's all going to be there? Negro, the cast of Housewives of Atlanta. Who else would be there? So she's like, oh, Candy. For some reason, this man has a problem with Candy, y'all. He has a problem with Candy because Candy was like, he's an opportunist. Because why, of all people, would he be dating Sheree Whitfield? She ain't lying, because it doesn't really make sense. Sheree's like 10 years older than him. I don't see it. Nonetheless, he goes on to try to call out Todd, talking about how short they are, basically calling Todd an opportunist. I'm like, whoa. First of all, I'm going to need for some of y'all to put some respect on Todd's name. Because not only did he marry Candy, and clearly they have a successful marriage, I really need people to stop acting like Todd was a bum. Like, you would have thought that Todd was working at McDonald's and then he decided to get with Candy. That is not what happened. This man had a whole job, and I'm pretty sure he was definitely making over 6 figures a year, okay? And this was back in the day, because they've been together for a while. So, if anything, him and Candy have come together and they have become assets for each other, because he clearly has a business mind. And as much as we love to give Candy credit, yes, she definitely deserves her credit, but let's not act like Todd just sat there and is reaping all the benefits of Candy's hard work. He definitely works as well, and he has definitely put in a lot of time and energy into their businesses. Keep in mind, I said businesses with an S. Sheree, you still can't get She by Sheree off the ground. But let's go ahead and move on. Okay, so now we talk to Candy. She is talking to the Candy Coded Clique, aka Don, Juan, and Carmen. It looks like Carmen has some new fillers in her face, but we're going to let that rock. They basically talk about how Sheree is clearly having some type of issue with Candy because she has called her out on her Speak On It podcast. And it's like, Sheree, get over yourself. So they talk about how she's going to bring back Candy Coated Nights and all this stuff. And next thing you know, Kenya comes over as well as Mayetta. So the Candy Coated Clique had to go ahead and exit scene. So first things first, we learn that Kenya has a new man in her life because Mayetta actually introduced her to a nice guy. She said that he's very nice to her, and that's important because we already know what happened with her and Mark. He was good on the eye, and she really likes this man because, we have not seen Kenya this happy in a while. So it's clear that she really does like him, and hopefully this relationship actually works out. So the ladies start talking about Sheree, right? And how, she's dating Martell. And, is she going to bring him to Sonya's husband's party? Probably. Baby, here's the thing. The streets have been talking, and Manana, as well as Candy, have heard things about Martell. He is supposedly seeing other women in Atlanta. And we already know that on his TV show, which was filmed at around the same time as theirs, he's still saying that Sheree is just a friend. So let that sink in, Sheree. Now, according to Kenya, though, this man has actually tried to slide in her DMs. Unfortunately, when she tried to pull it up, he had deleted the message, so we couldn't see exactly what he said. But I would not be surprised if Martell was really trying to get with Kenya. I mean, she's beautiful. So, next thing you know, they start talking about Candy, and now her and Todd are having some type of issues because he has been writing a script. I mean, he has written multiple scripts, and he wants Candy to produce his movie. So, she was trying to meet with him at a certain time, but then he ended up moving the schedule to benefit somebody else's schedule. I mean, it just became a whole thing. Candy is out here getting emotional because she feels like Todd is just doing things so that he causes an issue with her. And I'm just like, it might also be a cry for help, as in, ma'am, spend some time with your husband. You are doing this, that, and another, but you won't even help the person closest to you. Yeah, that looks a little crazy. So, like Kenya said, I really want you to go ahead and make it work with your husband, because we don't have time for Candy and Todd to be getting a divorce, because I actually like them together. But let's move on. We actually see Sonya and her husband. They are at home, and they decide to talk about his upcoming birthday party. Oh, also, Sonya still got all them people living in our house. Why is there 11 people living in your house? Why is your sister and her husband and their kids still there? Why is your mother and father still there? You couldn't, rent them a house down the block, or at least an apartment down the block? They don't need to be living with y'all. That is way too many people, especially considering they only have one house. This isn't like they own acres of land and there's multiple houses on the property. I'm just saying, I would be so over living with all those people. But nonetheless, they talk about the party, how it's a Harlem Nights theme. It sounds like it's going to be a good time. Alright, y'all, so we quickly learn that Sonya believes in keeping everything in the family, which is a problem, because now her sister's husband is her assistant. She out here just, throwing things on the wall, having him schedule it. The sister is over it because she feels like Sonya just be doing stuff just to be doing it. And then Sonya in her confession was like, I've always felt like, my family supported me, but then also I have supported them financially because her mom and her dad were both her managers. Her sister did her hair. And now you have her sister's husband as her assistant. I'm like, here's the thing. I understand what people mean when they say they want to support their family, but support your family is give them the money to start a business. That is their own. That has nothing to do with you. How about that? Help your sister have her own hair salon, so that way she's not always just doing your hair. Like, I am so tired of seeing people hire their family members and then get mad because, well, they're eating off of, me and all the things that I'm doing. It's like, well, you're the one who decided to do this. I feel like Sonya is the type of person that she wants to be surrounded by her family, and she wants her family to cater to her and all of her needs. And like her sister said, yeah, I understand we were doing that when you were in your prime, when you were running track, but baby, you're not running track no more. So you need to go ahead and hire a real assistant. Go ahead and hire somebody else to do your hair, because no, I'm not cutting your weave out at 11 p.m. Get somebody else to do it. Now let's move on, because they played the cutest little clip of Kenya and her daughter Brooklyn. Oh my gosh, that is such a cute little girl. They also played a couple of other clips I didn't really care about. But let's talk about Candy and Todd, because they are at the house and it's clear that Candy is trying to do some stuff with the kids. They're supposed to be having family time. However, Todd is working on his script. It looks like he's on a Zoom call or something. And Candy is all up in the background, acting up, okay? She over here singing about how she don't have the energy. She telling him to get off this Zoom call because it's supposed to be family time. And it's like, girl, I get it, but I am pretty sure that he don't be rushing you like this when you are handling business. Okay? Let this man have his one little play. I'm sorry, not a play. His one little movie. And just relax. Alright, y'all, now let's slide on over to Marlo. I kind of forgot that she was even a cast member on the show this season because I haven't seen her. So, she's with her boys. They're having Taco Tuesday night, and her life coach stops by to talk to her and the boys. So, basically, they talk about how they're doing good now, especially after Marlo kicked the boys out. You know, that was a whole thing last season. They talk about that briefly. And then the woman was like, oh, I still haven't gotten your mission statement. And I'm like, mission statement? This ain't a website. They're not a business. But I guess they're supposed to write this mission statement so that way they can always remember that they're a family. Okay, cool. So they're supposed to be doing that at some point. And then they also talk about how Marlo is new to gentle parenting, but she's going to keep trying with it. She's basically 50-50 on it because she's used to the way that her mom raised her. And I think she's probably going to go ahead and stick it out with the gentle parenting. She might as well. Now let's go ahead and move on. Alright, so now we see Sonya. She's going to Sheree's house. They end up working out. And the next person who shows up is Courtney. She is the new cast member on the show. And she's coming in as Sheree's friend. Now, according to Sheree, this woman is a Capricorn. And she's an all-around girl's girl. We shall see how this season turns out. Because Sonya ends up inviting her to her husband's party or whatever. And then she's like, oh, do you know any of the ladies? She's like, oh, I've hung out with Marlo before. And then they start talking about Candy. And according to Courtney, Candy has been going around town asking about her, asking people what they know about her, as if they're going to have some type of tea or something. And I'm just like, that don't even sound like Candy. But according to her, this is what has happened. Now, according to Sheree, Candy has a lot of time on her hands because you already know that she has made a spoof video about something that Sheree said. And clearly it offends Sheree because Sheree now has all this smoke for Candy. And then this woman decides to throw the ultimate shade about how basically if Candy isn't thinking about her, she's probably performing some type of oral on somebody else. I'm like, ma'am, could you please stop? This type of shade, you're too old for. Sheree, you are in menopause. You are almost 60. Cut it out. Now, they next start talking about Martell and Sheree, and I'm done with that. Let's go ahead and move on because Sonya, she is getting ready for this party. She goes to check on the venue, and we learn she has spent $100,000 on this party. And I'm like, well, girl, it is your man's 40th birthday, and on top of that, you do have to put on the extras because number one, you're on TV and you already know the ladies will read you if you don't. And number two, the public will judge you if this party is not on point. So now we flash to everybody getting ready to go to this party, right? I don't really care about what Candy and Ty was talking about. Let's jump on over to Marlo because she's talking to her stylist. And the stylist ended up bringing up how, Candy does these spoofs. And she's like, yeah, she needs to go ahead and keep doing that because it's clear that Broadway ain't working out. Well, here's what's so funny about that. The same way she tried to crack her little joke about how Broadway didn't work out for Candy. Yeah, that same Broadway play has now gotten Candy nominated for not only an Emmy, but also a Tony. So, yeah, Marlo, that read went nowhere. Because, baby, let's be clear. Candy is clearly one of God's favorites. So, chill out. Alright, so now we see a couple of people start to arrive to the party. Cool. So, we actually see that Sonya gave her sister and her husband the day off. So they don't have to be at her beck and call at this party. We see that Mayetta and her husband show up. Kenya shows up. And Ralph shows up with no Drew. Now, according to Ralph, not only does Drew not feel well, but also they are having a family emergency. Now, according to him, he still had to show up for his boy, which I'm just like, you know what, that is a typical man thing to do. Because let's be for real, a lot of times men will go ahead and leave, head out, do whatever they gotta do, and then come back home and be like, I mean, I had to go see what was going on with my boy. It was his birthday. You know what I'm saying? Bye, Ralph. So, next thing you know, Candy, she arrives, of course, with Todd. And what was so funny to me was that she was like, yeah, she did good on this party. Not on the Candy Burris level, but, you know, she did good. I'm just like, well, if Sonya can spend $100,000, how much y'all think Candy is spending on a party? Just wondering. Also, did y'all peep that Todd and Ralph practically had on the same thing? I mean, like, practically the same exact outfit. So, of course, and then we see Marlo show up, and after her, we see Sheree. Oh, and let's not forget Martell. I'm like, you know what? They are really pouring this on thick. This is a lot of Martell. We saw Martell, and we never saw Drew this entire episode, y'all. Entire episode. Matter of fact, we saw Martell more than we saw Marlo and any of the other husbands on the show. I said, you know what? This is a lot. Episode 2 cannot be this Martell heavy. It cannot. Another thing that was random, Ralph and Courtney figure out that they're cousins some kind of way. I guess somebody's related to somebody down the family line. That was weird. So we finally see Ross and Sonya arrive. Of course, she says a little speech. He thanks everybody for showing up. It's time to get the party started. One thing that I can say is that the husbands of this Housewife franchise are actually nice looking men, because Sonya's husband Ross, he's not an ugly guy at all. He's very attractive. Todd isn't ugly. Even though Kenya's not with him, Mark was not ugly at all. And even Drew's husband, Ralph, isn't ugly. I'm just like, you know what? Even though some of these husbands definitely are not the best, they are some decent looking men. Because y'all know sometimes when we be watching these housewives, and because these people have a certain social status, they husbands don't be attractive. You know what I'm saying? But let's go ahead and move on. So the ladies start to mingle, right? And they notice that Martell is there. In their confessionals, you have Kenya saying, why is he here? You have Candy saying, you know, last year she was with community service. Now she's with community property. And then you have Sonya chiming in saying, well, at least he don't have an ankle bracelet. Baby, I fell out because it does not seem like Martell is really on anybody's good side so far. It's clear that Kenya does not care for him. Candy don't care for Sheree or Martell. And I'm pretty sure she really ain't gonna be feeling him once she sees that he was talking mess about Todd. Because you know, she is a very my man. And rightfully so. Alright, y'all, here comes the shade. Because Kenya, she was like, oh, are you guys like seriously dating now? Because, you know, Martell's at an event. And they're like, oh, we're dating, blah, 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 blah. And in her confessional, Sheree's like, oh, Kenya's so nosy. She needs to be worried about if Mark's going to take more manner and add some baseboards or whatever. Because you already know, ever since Kenya built her house, Sheree has hated the fact that she does not have baseboards, okay? For some reason, that grinds her gears. So then in Kenya's confessional, she's like, you know what? Sheree needs a spinoff. Watch me date these dumb dudes, because let's be honest, her track record is terrible. Like, I know that some of the men that Kenya dated was questionable, but it ain't worse than Sheree. I'm sorry. It is not worse than Sheree. Now let's get to the mess, because we actually see that messy Sanya decided that she was going to go ahead and be a bone collector this season and carry what Courtney said to Marlo. why are we telling Marlo this? Because Marlo ain't friends with Candy. So what's this gonna do? Besides what? Spread mess. So she lets her know about how Candy supposedly looked this girl up and all this stuff. So now Courtney is there and Marlo is like asking her about what's going on with her and Candy. So Courtney decides to go on and tell Marlo about the whole situation with her and Candy. And Marlo is like, oh, you're going to have to say something to her about it, aka putting the battery in this woman's back so that way we can get some mess started at this party. But don't worry, that's not the only mess, because we jump on over to the other ladies and we have Kenya, Candy, I want to say maybe Marietta was there. They were talking about Martell. And Candy was like, yeah, I know of somebody else that he was like kicking it with in Atlanta. So next thing you know, Sheree comes over to introduce Courtney to Kenya or whatever, and then Kenya goes ahead and pulls her to the side. Now let's jump back to Candy and Courtney, because Courtney is like, oh, because someone came to me saying that you were asking about me, blah, 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 blah. And Candy's like, no, I just know that, you know Dina. And that's pretty much as far as this goes. So Courtney, she's still over here talking about how I don't have to lie about having friends and blah, 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 blah. So at this point, Candy is like, what is up with this energy? Because the energy that you have is very strange. And honestly, it was, because the way she was talking was super weird. I'm like, Courtney, what's going on with you? And then we decide, let's jump back over to what the other ladies are talking about. So now we have Marietta and Sheree talking. And Marietta is just trying to figure out, like, what's going on with Sheree and Martell. Like, are they serious? Are they just, hooking up with each other? Like, what's going on? Sheree is basically saying she's just having fun because she has a great time with Martell. And Marietta is like, oh, okay, well, let me just let you know that me and Candy, we've heard some things about him and how he's supposedly seeing somebody else in Atlanta. So according to Sheree, in her confessional, she's like, I'm a Ferrari. I'm a Ferrari. And, cheating on me, that's like going to a Toyota. And I'm just like, well, I don't know, because the Toyota, from what I heard, aren't they reliable? Ain't a Toyota supposed to be a reliable car, y'all? Wait, or is that Honda? I can't remember, because I don't drive either. But nonetheless, Sheree, you are not like a Ferrari. Because you need to be something that breaks down all the time. You know what? Sheree is more like a Kia. Because y'all know how they have like the Kia boys and all that stuff. The people keep breaking into people's cars and stuff. And that's how these men be breaking into Sheree's heart. She get played every time. She more like a Kia. But let's jump back over to Candy and Courtney, because Courtney's whole thing is that, you were asking people about me, blah, 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 blah. And Candy is like, no, I just asked somebody if they knew you, because I did not know who you were. And then when I saw you in a photo with Dina, it's like, yeah, I know Dina, but I still don't know you. So now you got Candy telling her to bag back, okay? And then Saya kind of chimes in because she sees that this can go south real quick. So she's like, I think that you are feeling some type of way, because you already told me that you were feeling some type of way. And Courtney is like, oh, I just wanted clarification. Like, girl, shut up already. And what is so weird is that, like, she really was bopping her head at Candy. Like, she was really bucking her head as if she was, like, sunning her. So Candy's like, yeah, you keep doing that. And then there was some type of mention of her possibly being a clout chaser. And Candy's like, I never even said that about you. So where is that even coming from? So you already know at this point, Candy is fed up. And when Candy gets to the point of being fed up, she's going to tell you in what way she going to come at you. For example, we previously heard her tell Nene she going to get blown up on her. She also told Peter that she was going to drag him. And now she is telling Courtney she will headbutt her. I said, listen, stop playing with Candy. Once Candy changed her voice, it go up an octave, and it's that fighting voice, it's over for y'all. It's over. Put Candy in a corner, let her cool down. Todd, come cool her down, because we don't have time for Candy to be fighting. Candy got too much to lose. She don't need to be out here fighting. All right, so now we hop back over to Kenya and Sheree and Mayetta. And Kenya's like, well, let me just tell you this real quick. This man has actually tried to slide into my DMs before. So, of course, Sheree's like, let me see it. Let me see. I want to see the DM. And Kenya is like, well, I just want to go ahead and give you a heads up. Keep in mind, she doesn't exactly have the DM because he deleted whatever that message was, but it does show that he was trying to, message her. So, what does Sheree do? Call him over. So that way we can get to the bottom of this, even though Martell probably gonna lie, because we know Martell lie like a rug every chance he get. I mean, this man, he literally tried to sabotage his own ex-wife every chance he got to where people would hate her. And people was actually believing his lies. So I know he about to lie about this situation. Now, y'all, that is where the episode ended. But when I tell you, I am so ready for the next episode because I want to hear why Kenya is going off on Martell. Because she was yelling out like, once a cheater, always a cheater, all this stuff. And, I mean, she ain't lying. She is not lying when it comes to Martell. But let me know what y'all thought about this episode. Go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. And I will talk to y'all in the next one. Bye, guys.